Hey, thanks for stopping by my neck of the woods. I'm the gig geezer in Wood Lane, and when I'm out there driving, I'm out there to make some money. I want to help you maximize your gig hustle. Well, it is a rainy Thursday afternoon. I'm in the midst of my first half hustle here in South Carolina market. I'm the gig geezer in Wood Lane. And if you like the content that has been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in other segments of the Gig Geezer, as always, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up. I always welcome your comments below. And if you would not mind, share my comments, share my content with others. One other thing, I want to really stress the subscribe thing. When I was a newspaper reporter, I used to say my goal was to inform, educate, and maybe entertain. And I think that's still my mission with the Gig Geezer, and that's to inform and educate, maybe entertain. A lot of that, I guess, has to do with your personality and just really how people relate to you. With that said, this segment of the Gig Geezer is about how are you managing these slower times in the gig economy. Now, I noticed one driver mentioned that he's really off by at least $1,000 at this point compared to last year, 2021. And quite simply, the reason being that he's off by at least $1,000, and I may be off by nearly $1,000 as well, but I really hadn't figured out those numbers. But I am going to provide it here on. I'm going to provide those numbers at least as of today, January 20, 2022 to January 20, 2021, just so you can see. But even if I'm off by that much, I came into this year with a realistic expectation that I am not going to see the numbers that I saw in 2021, at least in the first half. What I'm likely to see are numbers that are more like in the second half of 2020. And even then, as I shared in a recent segment, I still finished at over, just on gig economy app earnings, I still finished just south of $71,000 last year. Now, over the last 6 months last year, DoorDash was my main earner in this market, at least in my part of the South Carolina market. My number 2 earner was UberEats. My number 3 earner, arguably, was Instacart. And my number 4 earner in the last quarter, surprisingly, was Roadie, which was almost a no-show and missing for much of 2021. Just proportionally speaking, Roadie was creeping up there. Then Bite Squad and GrubHub basically fell off the map. At this time last year, GrubHub and UberEats were numbers 1 and 2, and they were kind of interchangeable. And DoorDash had gotten to a point where I was calling it PoDash because it was a joke. Even though in 2020, DoorDash was my number 1 earner. Go figure. Now, again, the point is, what are you doing in these slower times? I know that it's easy to say market, everything is market driven, and that is true. But even within your market, there are multiple options. And are you taking advantage of those multiple options? In my market, I've always said that I need to use any and all apps possible in order to make money. And it is proven to be true. It is proven to be true that you have to have multiple hustles. My mother used to tell me that when I was coming along. She said, "Little boy, you need to have more than one. You need to have more than one hustle, because life is going to require that of you, man." Now, my thinking of multiple hustles was my job and making money at the bowling alley or maybe at the racetrack. That was my idea of multiple hustles back then. And we're talking, 40, 50 years ago. Well, the gig economy itself is the greater hustle. That's the macro hustle. But then there are micro hustles. And for me, or as what we all say, we agree to say, multi-apping. Multi-apping is going to be the thing that gets you through the slower times. Because when one is dry, when one is slow, Maybe there's another one that's hot. And then again, there could be a couple of them that are dry or slow. But then there may be a couple of them that are hot. But yet, there are times when they're all slow. And I've experienced that as well. The Get Geezer has experienced that as well. I'm not immune to, I've not been immune to the slower times. But I think I'd like to think that I've been fortunate from the standpoint that I've been able to put in basically the same amount of time. When I first started doing the Geezer segments, I was sharing that I was putting in 7 to 7.5 hours a day. Well, that number's more like 7.5 hours now, maybe an upwards of 8 hours, because it's just slower. Times are slower, and I'm having to put in a little more time in order to see the same results. But I'm okay with that. So I can't be bragging of the $30 an hour all the way around. It's more like about $27 to $30 an hour. As far as what I'm making at this juncture in the year, I came off of a $1,350+ week last week, putting in 6.5 days. The previous 2 weeks I put in 1 week, I put in 6.5 days and made over $1,400. And then the week before that, I put in all 7 days and made over $1,400. So I am still hitting my numbers of $200+ a day. But it has come by multiple hustles. For me, the main 6 has been DoorDash, Instacart, UberEats, Roadie, ViceBot, and GrubHub. Now, per delivery, GrubHub is still good for per delivery. What you make per delivery. If you get the right GrubHub orders, GrubHub, at least for me in my market, has proven to be such a good option. But consistently for volume, DoorDash is the king of the hill. I think that could be true in just about most markets out there. Yes, there may be other markets that are where GrubHub or UberEats is someone's bread and butter, but in this market and in many other markets, DoorDash is king of the hill when it comes to volume, getting as many cracks as you can at making money. I see a lot of, at least in certain stretches, a lot of Bite Squad orders, but 99% of them are horrible. They're not even worth the time. And as much as I'd like to do a segment on Bite Squad, I just don't feel it's worth it. But I keep Bite Squad as an option because what I try to do with them is I try to accept orders of no less than $8.41. That's typically the bottom line, the seller number that I accept with Bite Squad. Given that you don't know where you're going once you accept the order, and as I've often shared, what you need to do is make sure that your order from the point of pickup to the time of delivery is around that 20-minute window. So at least you don't get stuck with something that takes you out to Timbuktu and then you're really mad. UberEats in my market is fallen off, but you can still make money on UberEats. GrubHub, as I've mentioned, in my market has really fallen off since July when they were acquired by that European company, and that was final, and they changed their logo and all. GrubHub has really fallen off. The thing that really has done it for me, what I've seen with GrubHub, is in my market, they broke my market up into sub-regions. 2 sub-regions for the Columbia market. And I happened to move from, and I shared this on another person's YouTube channel, and I'll throw out his name, Pete's Paid to Drive. What had happened was, the week that they were the week that they were implementing the breakup of the market, I happened to move from Lexington County to Richland County. Well, Richland County is the smaller of the two, and it's the smaller two regions, and correspondingly, the number of opportunities fell off. And like I said, now when I do accept and get a GrubHub, I tend to do pretty well in terms of dollars per delivery. But that's all I can say. GrubHub, there was a time I could make anywhere from $100 to $150 in any given day. No more with GrubHub. I haven't seen a $100 day since I left Lexington County. But anyway, my thing is about what are you doing to get through the slower times? You got to multi-app. Some say diversifying of your gig income streams, and that is true. The other thing is you may have to start earlier. You may have to work later. But, you do according to you. I still believe that you have to maintain that process of yours. And for the Gig Geezer, I have still held true to my order selections. With Instacart, single orders of no more than 20 items, $14 or more. Double stacked items in the $28 to $30 range at a minimum, no more than 40 orders. Triple stack, over $40, no more than 55 items. When it comes to the food delivery items, single orders, minimum offers of $8. Although the Gig Geezer has taken a chance on some, yes, there have been some times recently where the Gig Geezer has accepted some orders that are less than his preference, his wheelhouse. Again, the single orders being $8 and double stacked orders being $14 or more, at least in their offer. Just last night, I accepted the double stacked DoorDash order. The offer was $12. There were 13 items on there. It was from a Thai restaurant, and it turned out that they were going to hotels. So I was hoping that the orders would pay more than what they were offering, and it turned out they did. The orders paid a combined $18.73, which was a great relief. I've accepted some catering orders that showed $6.50 and $6.75, but they had over 20 items, and they were from places where you would think people would spend some money. So I lucked out in that standpoint. But it's been my experience by and large, when you see those orders from the $6 to $7 range, at least in this market, they tend to pay what they offer. So it's not worth my while to even try to deviate from what is my stated goals, what's my stated preference. Another thing that I've tried to do, even as things are slow, is I've tried to be patient. In that I'm telling myself that eventually I'm going to see something that's going to fall into my preferences. It's going to fall into my wheelhouse, and I'm going to be able to jump on it. And for the most part, that's also happened. I'm not trying to give someone a this unrealistic cheery story. I mean, again, I've had my moments too where things just haven't been coming around. I mean, I had my worst day. I'm not going to say ever, but it was one of my worst days, in which I finished at about somewhere between $145 and $148. And that was for the entire day. And so, all I could tell myself was that maybe the next day it'll be better. And as it turned out, it was a heck of a lot better. In fact, that day was sandwiched in between a $272 and a $266 day. And again, the opportunities eventually came my way. I think that's the thing that I try to tell myself, is that just like when I was a reporter, whatever reason there was a bad day, you think the next day is going to be better. And oftentimes it turned out to be better. And so I guess what you can also say is that you have to have the right mental approach to coming out here and doing your hustle, because you just can't have the wrong attitude. If you have the wrong attitude, you are setting yourself up for a bad day. Everything kind of flows according to your attitude. Good attitude, good day. Bad attitude, bad day. And I used to not talk about someone's mental approach to things, though, but I think a lot of it has to do with your mental approach. What else can I say? Again, set realistic goals. I see people saying that you can make $200 every single day that you go out there. Well, I'm here to tell you, even though I average over $200 a day during this gig hustle, there are days I don't make $200. I just don't. Like I just shared, $148 was one of my days. Just last night, no, 2 nights ago, January 18th, I finished at $175. Okay? But I came back with a $201 day yesterday, January 19th. So I'm just giving it to you from a very realistic standpoint, a very realistic perspective. While I am averaging the $200 plus a day, I do have my challenges. The question is, how do you deal with them? How are you managing them? And with that, this is another segment of the Gig Geezer. I'm Inwood Lane, and as always, may your hustle continue. Thank you for checking out this segment of the Gig Geezer. If you like the content that's been provided, hey, hit that subscribe button and also give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or useful information that you'd like to pass on to the Gig Geezer, I can be reached at giggeezer3.5 at gmail.com.